Welcome to Politics News Wolf US channel. The Russia-Ukraine war is at its peak. Both countries have been announcing for a long time that they are preparing for a major operation in March. Now that we are in the middle of February, the mobilization of the fierce clashes that will take place in March has begun, so much so that the Russian army has lost the most military personnel in 24 hours since the beginning of the war. 1,140 soldiers exactly. In the last few days, the Ukrainian army has successfully blown up ammunition depots, tank platoons, bases, and units of the Russian invaders. The Russian army suffered huge losses as a result of these attacks. Russian officials have begun to express their failure in the war, and they're concerned about the Ukrainian army's attacks. Russia can no longer hide the truth. Let's analyze these developments and statements together. The fighting has intensified in the last few weeks, especially in Vidar. The strategic importance of this region has mobilized both armies, but the Russian army is feeling in almost every move. A new development the other day revealed one of the Ukrainian army's strategic moves in Vidar. Andy's move involved neither guns, missiles, nor. Because the Ukrainian army is fighting systematically, the subject of this attack is mines. The Russian invaders were moving with a tank platoon Mi Valor. Their targets were units of the Ukrainian army. The tank detachment moved comfortably for a while as they advanced without being attacked, because all the occupying soldiers are aware that the Ukrainian army is on top of them at any moment. But the Russian invaders did not realize that in this attack, they would be blown up from the ground, not from above. Moreover, the moment they were blown up was recorded by Ukrainian. The footage shows the tanks of the Russian invaders being blown up one by one. The Ukrainian army had already placed mines on the road where the Russian tanks were advancing. When we look at the footage recorded by the Ukrainian drones, we see that the first tank in the first row of the tank platoon is caught in a Ukrainian mine immediately after the first tank is blown. The tank in the second row is also blown up, unable to understand what happened. The third Russian tank decided to turn back after moving a little further away from the direction of the exploding tanks. But the moment it turned back, a mine blew up the third tank. The capture of Russian tanks by Ukrainian mines is not limited to this. In the continuation of the images, there are Russian tanks advancing in a different. In this recording, it is seen that the Russian invaders drive the tank on a mine as if it is committing suicide, because right after the first tank explodes, the other tank advances to the mined area and explodes. The inexperience of the Russian soldiers was once again proved with these images. The Russian army lost tanks and dozens of soldiers by getting stuck in Ukrainian mines. Since the beginning of the Russian-Ukrainian war, Don Oblast has been the most intense clashes. The Ukrainian army continues to destroy the invading soldiers and their territories. In Dantik, last day, a Russian ammunition depot in Dunes Blast was destroyed by a successful attack by the Ukrainian army, although we cannot access the footage of the moment of the attack. The images afterwards showed that the Russian army suffered great losses, because in the images of the destroyed ammunition depot, huge smoke draws attention. The explosion of the materials in the ammunition depot also increased the intensity of the fire. It is estimated that the Russian invaders had a large amount of material in this ammunition depot while following the developments of the Russia-Ukraine war. It is now very difficult to keep up with the losses of the Russian invaders, so much so that the Ukrainian army is watching almost every move of the Russians. For this reason, the Russian army fails in many of its attacks and suffers a lot of losses. The other day, the 72nd Mechanized Corps, together with the 55th Artillery Brigade, targeted the Russian invaders' equipment. The Russian army lost tanks, armored vehicles, howitzers, and many other equipment in this attack. The footage of the attack was recorded as always by the Ukrainian drone. The scrap equipment in the footage is a sign that the Russian occupiers are exhausted. The Russian occupation authorities can no longer remain silent in the face of the Ukrainian army's attacks from the beginning of the war. It was well known that the soldiers in the army had accepted defeat and wanted to surrender. But this was hidden by the authorities in the Russian army and the government. Now, the military authorities have also begun to accept defeat and the power of Ukraine. This is evidenced by the statements made the other day by Vladimir Rogov, the occupation official of Zaporizhzhia Oblasts. Rule announced that the Ukrainian army had stepped up its operations in the Zaporizhzhia region. In particular, he said that the Ukrainian reconnaissance and sabotage operations are very active in the region. But there was an important detail in Rogov's statements. Rogov could not hide his concern that the Ukrainian army was preparing for a new offensive. He openly expressed that they are worried about a Ukrainian counterattack. The soldiers and commanders in the Russian army are aware of all the facts, but the leaders who are far from the front are unable or unwilling to see the facts because while there are casualties on the front, while the soldiers in the Russian army are retreating one by one, the leaders are making statements to the contrary. One of these leaders is Ka. The leader of the Chechen invaders made a statement the other day. This statement shows that CA is far from what is happening on the front line because Kari, like Putin, lives in a dream world. Kari said in his statement, "We will take Odessa, Kharkiv and Kiev and reach Poland." However, it is known to everyone that the Russian occupiers are suffering constant losses in these. The statements of the Russian occupiers are far from reality because contrary to what Kadyrov says, the Russian army, which is losing its ammunition, depots day by day, does not have the power to launch a major offensive against Ukraine. Andrea Tern, a representative of the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Defense, recently made a statement on this issue. Tern said, "However, according to our information, the Russian command does not have enough resources for large-scale offensive actions. Russia is facing a lack of precision weapons, and despite that, it'll continue to use missile terror against civilians. In Ukraine, they're trying to resume their production, but so far they have not succeeded. The Russian army faces a military problem as much as an ammunition problem. Russia has been losing an average of 500 soldiers every day since the beginning of the war. Putin has tried to solve this problem with mobilization orders, but he has not succeeded because Russian youth do not support Putin's decision to invade Ukraine." A video posted on social media the other day proved once again that Russian soldiers do not want to fight. Young people who were forcibly recruited by Putin's mobilization order called on the government of Kaliningrad region. In the video, they posted the Russian soldiers hiding their faces, thanked the government of Kaliningrad region, that they are being used as cannon fodder in the war, and that this should stop. It remains to be seen what Putin will do in the coming days if he does not give up his decision to invade Ukraine. Despite the huge losses of the Russian army, do you think Putin will give up his decision to invade? How do you interpret the successful attacks of the Ukrainian army? What do you think about the inexperience of the Russian? Thank you for watching the video. If you find it useful, please comment and share the video for us. It will make our channel more known. See you in the following videos. Thank you very much.